Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Advisor Seat, a podcast series by Solomon Strategic Advisors, where we introduce you to the people behind the business. So sit back, enjoy the conversation, and if something resonates with you, we always love to hear your thoughts, and you can email info@solomonsa.com. Okay, today we have, drumroll please, new employee. In fact, Alex, how long have you actually been in Solomon?
Weeks. So
Just a
I am
couple of weeks.
rolling out right now, and I'm thrilled for it. I just got my badge today, my name tag, business card, so I'm official.
It's official. I love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Alex Lange. And my first question for you is simply, who are you?
Well, like you said, I'm Alex Lange. I was thinking about how to say who I am really succinctly, but I feel like my life has been enthusiastically non-linear. I'm from Oklahoma, a small town kid, started on a medical path. And then at an early age, I realized we have to grab a hold of life. It goes by really quickly. So I have taken advantage of all the opportunities I can, which has led me to working on the border of Mexico, internationally overseas in India for years. And I just returned back to where I'm originally from. I look at the world that everybody has this imprint of the divine on them, right? So no matter where I
Mm.
am, whether it's a developed country, a developing country, a C-suite, or talking with my neighbors outside in the yard, or even my little kids, I can treat all people the same. And so that drives me to think my location, my home isn't necessarily where I live, but it's the people around me.
Okay, so a couple of words on your character. If I was to say, tell me about your character in one word, what would you throw out?
Got to be enthusiastic. Like whatever I do, I'm all in 100%. Anything that's a challenge, I will run towards a challenge. So if somebody tells me you can't, or it's going to be hard, or no one else, I'm the first one in line. I also feel like I need to do everything with excellence. And that's probably more a learned behavior for me because I would rather do the first 90% and then leave it.
Okay, so excellence. And that I totally locked into excellence when you said that. So enthusiastic challenge done with excellence. There are your character words.
Probably I'd throw fun in there. Everything can be a lot more fun if we all just tried.
I personally love that. I agree with you. Okay, so a couple of words on competency. What do you bring to the table in terms of those skills and abilities?
So maybe to give a little bit of background, when I was in the medical field, it was so high on doing neurosurgery. So it's really high on technical skills and information exactness. And there was always essentially a guru in the room. And the person with the most information had something at stake. You'd go to them, but if you lost the most information, then suddenly you were vulnerable.
Mm.
I was in that world for years, and what I've discovered is a different space to actually be the person who can lead by influence rather than just information, to be able to see the other sides of intelligence. We have relational intelligence and move through those spaces. So the currency is not just the most information we hold, but actually who is able to be connected to the people in the room, to have a vision to see where we're going and to bring wisdom to a conversation. And so that's tends to be I love asking hard questions. I'm endlessly curious. I love a coaching mindset to bring that to a conversation. So even though I can list all the things I've done, like how much I love neurobiology and I love watching the neuroscience behind how we change, but to sit in a room with people and be able to ask the dumbest questions, be able to ask the questions nobody else asks. That's my favorite thing is to look like the most curious kid in a room. And so I feel like that I bring to a room is I'm not afraid to ask the silliest questions, but the things that we should be asking.
That's so good. Okay, so maybe it draws on to the next question that I have for you. But in this business, in Solomon Strategic Advisors and coaching, consulting, and leadership development, what do you love most about this work? I know you mentioned those coaching questions and that kind of format, but what do you love most about the work we do?
Absolutely. So what I like to draw back in my history. So when I was doing neurosurgery, my favorite thing was not the day to day, but it was actually meeting people and families in crisis, like in the ICU emergency room, and to step in a space where essentially their hope for life or for a loved one was like just a little ember. And I love being able to fan that flame, give them hope. And so they always say it's Napoleon that said, and I don't know if he did, that leaders are dealers in hope. And so I discovered that working in the medical field, I love delivering hope to people. I feel in this space, we actually get to bring hope to leaders and executives and say there is a better way to serve, a better way to lead. An organization can be healthier, and you actually have the ability to learn and grow and change. I get to come alongside people and actually start out dealing hope by giving tools and resources, resetting mindsets for people. And so I love the fact that we actually get to deal in hope every day and say that
Yeah.
it's a way that the world should be. And we get to empower you to do that.
Yeah, and how funny though that you started in neurosurgery and now we really do deal with the brain and mindsets a lot, but from such a different perspective.
Rather than actually touching a brain with your hands, well, with gloves on, of course. Rather than
Yeah.
that, but we're actually seeing the effect of what's going on, that our cells and our neurons are firing. We can train them to fire in new and healthier ways. So we're not just looking at the anatomical side, we're looking at the physiological side of what happens in a person because of those cells.
Oh my gosh, Alex, I feel like we need to go down a rabbit hole of neuroscience. But maybe that's like another episode because
Yeah.
I have
Well,
a clear agenda here, but how fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then on the topic of leadership development, what is your most painful, and I'm sorry to have to like bring this back up for you, but what is the most painful leadership moment that you've had that's maybe set you on a different trajectory or given you like that wisdom to lead others well?
for on a personal side for me, rather than maybe theoretical, like a book that really helped, I was helping lead a team on the border of Mexico working for a nonprofit. And I was doing a lot of probably self flattery, looking around the other leaders and like, I am killing it. I'm doing so much better. And a team member who said, actually, she's like, I will be on your team no matter where you go and follow you anywhere into the world. And I thought, like, what a great leader I am. And then she had a really direct conversation and she was really kind in it too. And she brought to my attention, she said, my one concern is that you move so fast, you don't give me runway to adjust. What I realized in that is I cannot operate as though everybody sees and hears the world the way I do. They love the strengths that I bring, a vision, and we can move quickly and we can learn fast. But I actually had to prepare my team in a way that was different than I had been. I couldn't have a vision of what we're doing overnight and change everything the next day, but I actually had to prepare people to say, here's how we're going to get from here to there. Here's why. Because I'm a what if person. Like, what if we succeed? This is going to be incredible. And that's all I need is to go what my wife calls la la land. One day, the world will all, and actually, what I need to do to serve people better is lay a big vision, but actually put the building blocks in place so that I don't destabilize all the trust that I've built. So if they've learned to trust my character and then the rug gets pulled out because they don't know what to expect, I was actually damaging
Mm.
my team rather than giving them a bright future to move forward.
So how hard was that though? Because when you talk about that leadership moment and understanding yourself and really what was a gap in your ability to lead well, how hard was it to truly learn and fill in that gap? And are you done or is it like this ongoing journey?
Well, it's for sure ongoing. So what I've had to do is I can think through like what voices would say to me and what they'd say, but I have to find an actual person, not just an archetype, like
Yeah.
piece of paper, what would somebody say? But I can go and find somebody who needs to check all the boxes before we move forward. What questions would you have? Because I'm still going to be a big picture, fast paced mover. I need
Yeah.
to pair like this lady on my team. Okay, what are all the details? What does that mean for me today, tomorrow, 2 weeks? Can I tell my family what the plan is and not expect it to shift? And so I've had to prepare as though I was a different person than I am by finding the right people to speak into me. Say like those
Yeah.
were beautiful, but what are we doing today?
Yeah, so it's like the importance of having an advisory group that are not just an echo chamber, but they're actually going to give you good perspectives that's not your own.
It's like so I can actually lean into whatever their strengths are and let them cover up my weaknesses rather than
Mhm.
I can just like muscle my way through a weakness. Always gonna have this. Part of the reason I love a bright future is I am sometimes blind to the thing that's right in front of me. And so I
Yeah.
have to sit and say, what would somebody else ask? And now who can I ask that would ask that really hard question?
Yeah. Is there a book that you keep going back to over your leadership career?
That's a great question. Oh man, I have so many books that I'm like I'm in love with. And so I feel like I start listing like my top 75. Right now I'm reading Unreasonable Hospitality. And I think
Yes.
beautiful book of one of the things I've keyed down on is to do things with such rigor and discipline for 90, 95%, so you can be complete luxury and exorbitant. You invest the extra time or money with the remainder. As a leader, that's like, I'm going to be ruthless in how I calendar my life and schedule and prepare so that when these surprise, spontaneous moments happen, I can be intentional about them. Just like if you have friends or family, you prepare dinner and a meal. You, if it's Thanksgiving for me or whatever you're doing in London when you're there. Well, if we're preparing that, I'm setting up a table so that there's a space for spontaneous conversations to happen.
Wow.
And I can pour out.
That's good.
That's the current book I'm reading.
That's really good. It reminds me of a suggestion that Ben Hardy has in Willpower Doesn't Work. He talks about working in sprints. And this was a interesting concept for me. And then he's like, ruthless, sprint, like work so hard, involve yourself so deeply, and then rest, recuperate, have fun, enjoy the money that you earned, do those things. And I was like, this is an interesting idea. Let me see, because I feel like my life is a sprint and I don't create the intentional space for spontaneous activity and enjoying life.
Yeah, that's what I think about. I love the idea of running and try to run. And it's really good for me to think about how the official runners train, where they do that. They have training cycles where you're going to just exhaust yourself, whether it's running intervals or hills. And then the best runners take off days and they find space to rest to actually let their muscles recover. And just like you're saying in a workspace, like how can we sprint really hard, deliver above and beyond what people expect and surprise them. And then we can also relax and enjoy this incredible life that we have here.
And I think for some of our tendencies, it's about learning to actually relax without guilt, without shame, without feeling like you're missing out. Like I'm kind of a FOMO person. And I'm like, what's the team doing today? Sophie, you're supposed to be off, you know?
Every time I'm like, if I'm one place, what's going on in the other spot? Rest is a really hard discipline for me to set into.
Yeah, there's value in the discomfort. So a lot of leadership is, well, much of what we learn through life, we have to then unlearn when we truly figure out how we want to show up and who we want to be for the world. So is there something that you recognize you had to unlearn when you kind of arrived
Well, I wouldn't say I've arrived.
as you're arriving?
Growing. I think one of the things you come in with all these bright ideas, especially like I did moving through college and grad school and working at like, I will suddenly uncover this thing. Like, and maybe it is some of like a surgical background, like I will do an intervention that will have this outcome. And what I've learned a lot and had to unlearn is that is not how leadership works. Like we have seats of power, we have positions that provide vision and order and protection to a group. But actually, if we're looking at healthy leadership, we should be looking at the output and not just what our input is. So if we have a healthy group with healthy leadership, we can start to say, hey, there is direction, alignment within this group. And we can't necessarily pinpoint it to a specific input I put in. I can instead add
Mm.
fruitful inputs from a team instead of me bringing something to the table. And so just like when I'm discovering I need to slow down and prepare the steps better, is that's not that I'm going to now craft the best plan that everybody can understand, but I'm going to find a team that our output is healthy leadership, our output
Mm.
effective leadership for this team, rather than saying I'm going to be the most effective leader. I'm going to have a team that produces healthy leadership.
And it could be a combination of all these little big things.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
going after small wins. So I love executive coaching. And sometimes the most important thing we can do is these micro wins that begin to compound over time.
Mm.
Maybe for me that I notice I can actually go to you for a specific question. And that's a small change to say, hey, Sophie, can you help me with what would you say to? And that's not going to change everything in one day, but making those small adjustments to show up in a better way means on the output, we have healthy leadership.
Yeah, and it is different than often what we show up thinking we're supposed to do as leaders, have all the answers and create dramatic change tomorrow. And if you don't do that, are you leading? No, that's not the case at all.
Yeah, you feel sometimes I felt the pressure. Like I have to show up and essentially be a magician, wave a wand, fix the problems. But instead, if we are practicing healthy ways of leadership, these small wins, something magical happens, but it's not at the wave of a wand. It's through
Yeah,
discipline, small steps, building a healthy team, creating a healthy culture that actually results in something that at the end is transformation, which is what I know you and I both love seeing a team, a workplace, an individual transform.
yeah,
There are occasions where we suddenly have this massive insight and we're different from one second to the next, but most often we're building small wins. If we're going back to neuroscience, we're creating new neural pathways. We're reinforcing them. And what was once like trying to blaze a new trail in the jungle and you're having to like find a way through, cut your way through, the next time there's a path and then you're creating a road and then a highway. And over time, suddenly you have highways going places that you could never have gone before. And so these small
oh my
steps
gosh.
over time, and we're literally changing how our brain works, how we see the world differently.
So, on that note, because people are probably itching to hear, What is the best way to start a new neural pathway?
I mean, it sounds cliche, but we have to be curious. So if I'm going to come into a conversation inflexible, it's going to be really hard to create a new neural pathway. So one of the things I have to do is I have to be prepared to change in any conversation. And that doesn't mean concede, whatever my,
Yeah.
but I have to be willing to change when I step in. And the second piece is actually to tie it to people's stories. So as humans, we're meaning making creatures, meaning everything that happens, we create meaning out of. Even if it's not there sometimes, a spot on the wall, and we're like, it looks like my grandmother, right? But we create meaning, and there is meaning and purpose to our lives. And so if we're coming in and we're trying to impose meaning, a better way is listen to other people's stories and start to hear their meaning and purpose come through. And now you're not the enemy of me. You're not the person dragging your feet. You're not the person pushing me too hard, but actually I can see what you're fighting for in your story and your narrative. So T.S. Eliot apparently said, like, we had the experience but missed the meaning. And I often use this in coaching is that if we don't pause and find the meaning, the reflection, listen to somebody else's story, we can have all these experiences pile up and that we don't actually create the right story or narrative.
Mm,
Builds a cohesive world for us so our brain can relax, so we can find places to rest and we can have healthy teams.
that's so good. Have you heard that phrase, be interested before interesting? Yeah,
Goodness. I
that's a really good.
I struggle with that because it's so true. And then I'm like, but I have so many interesting things to tell you. Well, I had a
I'm
friend,
so interesting.
he's actually the first person who introduced me to the concept of a coaching style of leadership or more flat hierarchy. And he would do this. He would actually practice on these trans US flights. So long flights, not as far as from like the UK to here, but he would see if he could ask 50 questions to somebody while sitting next to them on the plane.
Wow.
What he found is that by being interested in the other person, every detail
Yeah.
of their life, everyone would get off the plane and tell him, like, I had such a pleasure meeting you. This is the greatest conversation. And one flight, the person knew nothing about him because he'd simply
Yeah.
just in their life for 2.5 hours. And that's a unique thing that we don't get. Everybody's busy on their phone, looking at social media. They're getting notifications going off all the time. And instead, being interested is such a discipline to say, I'm not listening so I can speak next. I'm interested to find out who you are, how you see the world with no secondary so that now I can have my turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, but the output, the outcome is so
Mhm.
meaningful.
Yeah. And I think so much we don't have many of those conversations.
Amazing. Hey, I want to do a quick game with you, but before we do that, before we like get into the fun, which I know you're itching to do as well, right? Well,
Sure.
fun is one of your words. Is there anything else you want to like throw out there into the universe while we have this space and this audience?
I think the only thing is we should flesh out our definitions better. And so,
Tell me more about that.
yeah, over and over. So this is like a typical coaching conversation. What do you mean by that? Right? We'll say, tell me more about that. What does that mean to you? What would success look like? And I found out even when our language is the same on the surface and in a layer below, what do you mean by empower all people at our organization? What does that look?
Mm,
I'm a parent. So what do you mean by healthy parenting? What does that mean? What do you mean by being engaged as a parent? What does a healthier marriage, a friendship, what does rest like? We even did this earlier. We didn't really define what we meant.
yeah,
We're both saying, I agree with rest. And so if we can actually create shared definitions, not just shared words,
yeah.
then we can actually have a real dialogue. And we can actually say, when you say empower, you mean lift somebody up and set them on a pedestal. When I say empower, I mean give them the tools. And when this other person says empower, what they mean is they're only going to get so far and we have to cater to them because they're less than we are. And so there's a lot,
Mm,
we all use the word empower, but we mean something very different. And so I think speaking,
yeah,
not just in great words, but going a level deeper and saying, what are great definitions? What is the context?
yeah.
Is a thing that I've learned, and I feel like in every daily conversation, I need to do that more. What do you mean by that? I have an almost,
Mm,
what do you mean by you're frustrated? I know what I mean when I say I'm frustrated, but you might just not like the fact that you have parents that like help give you strong boundaries in life.
yeah, that's really good. And so then it's more like, is frustrating the word? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
or is it maybe uncomfortable? Now we can redefine based on how we defined what I was using as that word. Oh, yeah.
My 7-year-old will say, he said this a lot last year. We just moved across the ocean. So, that brings a lot of challenges. And he'll say, I'm having a feeling I've never had before. And then he'll go on to describe it. I'm like, what if we did that as adults? I'm sitting in this meeting and I'm happy to be on this team. I'm thrilled for my job, but something's giving me pause. And so I'm having this,
Hmm.
how do I balance the paradox of two strong emotions that both might actually be really helpful instead of saying I have to just say I'm frustrated and walk out?
Exactly. I don't want you to overthink this. So, would you rather lead a highly talented, dysfunctional team or an average, highly aligned team?
Have to give a one or the other, huh?
You gotta do one or the other.
If I were the leading a highly aligned team, if I were coming in to help, I want the highly functioning but misaligned team. Well, if it's me as the leader in the group, I want the highly aligned team every time.
I love that. So it's slightly situational. Okay, would you rather have complete trust with low execution or strong execution, low trust?
Complete trust, low execution.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, long term. Okay, this or that, vision or execution?
Vision is my nature, and execution is a learned behavior that is absolutely necessary.
Data or intuition?
Intuition.
Oh my God, I'm going data. Okay, it's not about me, it's about you. So funny. Directness or diplomacy?
My default is diplomacy, and as I mature, I think more directness.
Yes. God, that's a good one.
Uh,
Process?
an example of
Oh,
that
yeah.
lady, she was direct, and it changed how I lead. And if she had been too diplomatic, I would not have heard those strong words.
Wouldn't have heard it. Well, of course, the meaning behind this is that leadership is very situational and you've got to know who you're talking to because with some people it's got to be diplomacy and with other people it's got to be directness, right? But it's just Alex's preferences right now. So silence or brainstorming?
Brainstorming,
Yeah, throw those ideas up on a whiteboard. So good. Stability or innovation?
innovation. I
Yeah, you're
love,
like, I've lived an unstable life.
if you walk out of the room, I'll rearrange the furniture. So
That's funny. Okay, do you prefer high challenge or high support?
I prefer I prefer high support. I think personally, I challenge myself in a probably an unhealthy, too strong of a way, and so I need high support from other people because I am skewed to challenge myself more than I should.
There's that balance.
Mhm.
If you're high challenge, I need high support from you, and together we're gonna sort this out. We are at time, although I could play games all day long, and I think it helps to figure out our new team member. I'm so excited. So thank you for joining me in this space. Any last words that you want to throw out there?
No, this is awesome. I loved it. I'm so excited to be a part of this team.